make sure that they're in decent posture, right? They're not too rounded, or they're not, sitting, flex, like all kind of hunched over. I usually get them up just because it's easier to kind of activate the glutes, and then that'll help with their posture. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna hold them in a slight external rotation so that we can get the right posture of the scapula. When you do that, the scapula is gonna retract ever so slightly, okay? So if we wanna use this for somebody who really needs a little bit of awareness of what their scapula is doing. So we're gonna find the spine of the scapula up along the top. So it's usually around that AC joint. You'll start to feel it's underneath all the trapezius muscles. So if you have someone this muscular here, you just have to really try to identify your landmark, okay? You're gonna make a short version of the 7, and you're just gonna lay that down along where you think that the spine of the scap is. And then what you're gonna do is take your longer piece and you're gonna connect it, and your aim here is to find the inferior angle, because you want to hug along the inferior angle. You don't want to be too on the inside of it or too on the outside of it, because you're just going to be in muscle out here. So you want to find like right where you kind of cross over, and again, it should look like a 7. What tends to happen is that people make these like really sharp edges, like they look like the letter V. Okay, and so it's not that, because you have to really identify what the landmark of the scapula is. You have a long medial border, a long lateral border, okay? So you want to hug the lateral edge. You're going to cross over the inferior angle, and now you're going to apply your tape. So just make sure that your leukotape is slightly shorter than your white tape. And I'm just gonna, and like we do the unload, just kind of give it a little pinch and a pull, and it's just gonna naturally have that little wrinkling under there. Again, this is where wrinkling is okay, because you're doing a little bit of an unloading principle. And this, you're gonna do a blocking principle. You're gonna kind of pull down, again, over that inferior border. And so when he's at a natural resting state, what we've done is we've sort of hugged the scapula along the thorax and to keep it in better position. Now he can still move, he's still gonna have range of motion. The thing is, if he's an athlete going into play, he's probably gonna hate this. Number one, and remember we would have already sprayed him. Number one, this angle, if he's a true overhead athlete where he's gonna create trunk flexion, he's gonna pop this border right off, okay? The other thing is, if he's a true overhead athlete, he's going to tell me he's gonna feel limited, okay, potentially. So what you're gonna do instead is you're gonna use it with kinesio tape, okay? The only difference with your kinesio tape is you have to you have a small length, because when you go to stretch it, if you didn't accommodate for the length in the piece, you're going to be across his spine, and that's not what we want. We don't want him to feel like he's blocked across the spine.
Will you anchor it with the kinesio tape?
Same. Everything is the same. It looks identical. Yes, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to put it directly over, and it's totally, like, none of it's touching the skin. You have to always, remember I've said this before, when kinesio tape is layered over kinesio tape, some of it has to touch the skin, or else you will have zero anchor. That will be the first thing that pops right off, regardless if you sprayed or not. So it's gonna look exactly the same. I've made a much smaller piece here to accommodate. I'm gonna have you do this one now, like open it, yep. So I'm just gonna place along that scapular border, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a pull, because we're trying to create a blocking sensation. And then what we'll do is we'll do the top end. Now I'm going to anchor it to the little bit to the tape, but mostly to the skin, okay? or else that will come right off. Then what we'll do is we'll come down the lateral border right over. The other thing, remember, lay down, no bases here should have tension. So you have your tension and then you stop and you place the ends because that will pop off. What we don't want to also do is make it so long that we cross the spine down here, because the second he engages trunk flexion, that's going to pop off as well, probably. So again, you want to just keep it in this nice 7. Now an athlete who tells you like this feels uncomfortable or he's feeling a stretching here when he goes into flexion, you can just make it shorter. Just make a shorter version of this. Okay, this won't be shorter, but this part will be shorter. Okay, so it really depends on the athlete. If you can get it right the first time, then they'll feel pretty good with it. This one is good to use your school athletes who are in school or in class, because they're going to get a little proprioception to not be so slouchy throughout the day. Okay, if he tries to kind of slouch and sit, he's going to feel that there's some tension here pushing into his scapula, which is going to give him a little bit of an awareness. Okay, so that's your Scap 7 in both. So I want you to be able to practice with both so that you know your different lengths and tensions and things like that.
On the